Bye.
All right.
Where was
So
At Chalk.
I've never been.
your goal was to find a business and develop a methodology for determining social style and vows for, I think I told you all Paycom, right? There's supposed to be a Paycom rep. So you're gonna look for a business that's gonna be needing Paycom. So the order of go, select randomly by lot, are chosen, then ridiculous
Did we sign in yet?
6 will be number 2. I'm sorry, I think we'll be chosen twice.
They can go twice.
So that was supposed to be the back table. The back table is number 3 and erasable ink is number 4.
And the chosen son on one.
Yep. Ready?
Yeah, we're.
Okay, you all are in the frame. That's good. Sorry. Go ahead. So which company did you select?
So the company that we chose to approach with Paycom Services is the Metropolitan Library System,
Okay,
because they have multiple locations in the area and with multiple employees at each location. So we feel like it'd be very beneficial.
okay. So you chose the Metropolitan Library System, which is a governmental agency. All right.
Yeah, so kind of using the Madden framework, they've obviously been expanding.
Okay.
So they have funding, and then approachable, they kind of use like technology. They're not like a traditional library, I'd say. They like go to social media to try to attract the local communities to come. So I think they'd be kind of open to a new thing like Paycom. And Desire, since they're growing and the number of employees keep growing, outsourcing can save them time. So I think that would be a desire for them. And kind of like eligibility and need, it would help them save time to focus on more library things and expanding like they seem to have been doing in recent years. So it's kind of that. And then the vows, we.
So who did you think is the decision maker then there?
Well, the government, and then
Okay, but who specifically? Did you identify a specific individual?
yeah, no, we couldn't really find because it's a government. It didn't have like a specific person that was in charge of decisions.
Okay. How would you find that? They're a governmental agency. How are you going to find it?
Government side, I guess.
You can go to their website. You can find their library board meetings in the minutes. That will tell you who the staff is and who the director is of the library system. Then you can use that to determine what you think the social style is using social media. So that's what I think you all should do. Is I think you should try and find through government sources who the director of the library system is or who their purchasing agent is. You should be able to get that. Like I said, the minutes of the library board will be open record. So you can find those, and you can find out who the staff are that are important, identify them, and then because you're not going to be able to identify a vowels. Vowels are individualistic or social style because they apply to individuals, not to governmental agencies, not to a unit itself. So that's what I think you ought to do is I would start before you turn it in, since you have on Thursday, since we won't have class, you need to go and you need to find through their website. It's either going to be the city of Oklahoma City, or it's going to be a combination of both the city and county, and who they're like. For example, the Guthrie Public Library is owned by Guthrie, right? The Metropolitan Library System, I think, is a dual governmental agency, in that I think it's like the Oklahoma City County Health Department. They split those responsibilities and funding. So they're gonna have a library board, they're gonna have an executive director. Let me see if I can, just out of curiosity, if I can find, in a matter of minutes, by using sources. Library administration. It's governed by the Metropolitan Library Commission of Oklahoma County, the executive director, it's right on their website. So you're gonna have to find that in order to be able to complete the vowels and the social style part of the project. Okay, what else did you find? So you got money, that they have money because they're expanding and you think they got funding, okay? You thought that they had a desire. What else?
So just the need,
Okay,
they have like a bunch of employees since they've been expanding, so outsourcing could save them time to do
okay,
more
all right.
specific things.
All right, so what you need to do to finish this is you need to figure out if the executive directors, I'm gonna guess that probably the executive director is not the person that you're gonna have to sell it to, but they're gonna be important. It's probably gonna be a decision by the board. But if you can get the buy-in of the executive director, then that's gonna be important in terms of developing a sole source contract, okay?
Sure, it sounds good.
All right, good deal. All right, ridiculous 6.
The company we chose was Aspen Coffee.
Okay, why did you choose Aspen Coffee?
They're a smaller company, but they're continuously expanding.
Okay, how do you know that they're expanding?
They have 4 shops in Stillwater and 2 shops in Edmond, and they started in 1994.
Okay,
They have 2 owners, Matt Johnson and Kelly Litta.
okay, how did you find that?
Find that, it's on their site, and it's also on their Facebook page.
Okay, and Kelly what?
Litta, Lyda.
Okay, all right,
Think that, so starting off with the M and Matt and they are slowly growing financially, they're expanding, so there's enough money coming in for them to have growth and not for them to be defensive and pull back.
okay,
And they're approachable, they're very community driven from what I saw. They have, even on their website, they have a bunch of pictures of family, friends, and also customers,
okay.
and then as well as other.
So you based on the approachability, based on basically sort of the feel of their website, their
Yes,
Facebook, and the
yeah.
amount of pictures that they've done, okay? Why do you think that's important?
That's important because it shows kind of it shows what they care for, I feel.
Okay,
Showing that they're actually giving up time. It's not very difficult to take a picture and post it up online, but they have a whole tab dedicated alone just to community.
okay. They have a community tab. Do they encourage people to, so one of the things that's become very popular among your generation is to post all of your, like, shots of your food on social media?
We did find, yes, there are some
So-
shots of like designs on top of the coffee,
In terms of like the latte having.
having like yellow, like looking flower. Like that.
Okay, all right,
And we feel like they would have a desire since they are growing and they will have an increase in employees so we can reduce their costs of outsourcing and a lot of their time that they need.
okay. How, if they're doing it themselves, how are you gonna reduce costs?
Doing it themselves, we're reducing costs by them basically taking away the time of doing payroll and actually engaging it more into their shops. So like, I feel like they would be able to engage more, grow more by saving money because they use less of their time. So time is money. Less of their time using doing the payroll and actually engaging with the community by like doing like charity events, donation events, but growing and showing themselves out to the community.
Okay,
And decision maker is the owner and the two owners.
Okay.
And we believe they are eligible as well. The need would be for rapid growth of labor.
Okay. All right.
And their social styles would be analytical, driver, and amiable. They're a smaller company and they're only located in Oklahoma. They are analytical because they are slow paced and have limited resources compared to bigger organizations. So they must put extra effort into making it organized and to plan strategically. Also being a driver,
You think
social
both of
style.
them, you think both of them are analyticals or one or more than the other?
I think the company as a whole, all of
Okay.
Are we doing two different social styles?
In terms of
or both?
social styles again are an individualistic characteristic. I don't think it's a business characteristic. I guess you could anthropomorphize social styles to apply to a business. I'm not sure that I would, if I was to anthropomorphic reference the business, I'm not sure that a coffee house would be an analytical. But okay, I mean, you can make an argument, I think certainly, but I think what you need to do is you need to identify which of the owners is which style. Because again, social styles really apply to individuals, right? I mean, businesses don't communicate in and of themselves, right? They communicate, although they are in many instances legal people, they operate through individuals, right? They operate through their owners and agents and employees. So what do you think the social style of the owners is?
I would say the one for Stillwater would definitely be more analytical than the one in Edmond, just because it's,
Okay, so
A
one owner
smaller-
is in Stillwater and one owner is in Edmond?
From what I found, I couldn't really tell if they switched the locations or if they have a primary location.
Okay. How would you find that?
Either from possibly posts on Facebook, seeing if they have pictures or at one location, but I would kind of think they're almost like a district manager that would kind of travel from one location to the next.
Okay.
And just to kind of, let's say I'm here for a week or two, then I just see how each store is doing
All right. So they started in Stillwater
in 1994.
in 1994, okay. And they moved to Edmond.
Yeah, they have two newer shops in it.
Okay, all right. I think you could use Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to see if you could figure out which one is at which. If one of them is, for example, I would guess, I don't know, I think it would be an educated guess to assume that when they opened in Edmond, probably one of the owners
Oh, went to this area.
lives in Edmond. That's why they opened in Edmond. Right? I'm just guessing.
That would make sense.
That would seem to make sense to me that I mean, it's sort of a similar demographic in terms of customers, because you've got a college in Edmond, you've got high income producers that are willing to spend money on coffee, things like that. Starbucks is horrible, so there may be
That's what I saw where
market there.
even someone said, well, it's way better than Starbucks, but it's still not good coffee. I'm like, what?
It's
I'm like,
still not
what?
good
Yeah,
coffee.
apparently. I'm like, it's okay.
Okay.
I was like, I'm done.
And additionally,
Uh-huh.
I read on the Oklahoma they had like a big interview, and one of their main purposes is that they believe that in like strongly micromanaging their businesses. So the upstart of when they first made the shop was during the popularity of Friends, and there was like the coffee shop over there, and they wanted to like emulate that kind of feeling within the shop. So
Okay,
that's how that came about.
so they started in Stillwater, they wanted to emulate Friends. Okay, so that tells you something about probably their social style right there. If they're emulating what was, I mean, I never watched Friends when it was on. I have recently just started watching Friends because I've gone through like my binge watching of everything else that I know. And so now it's like, well, why is this show so popular? So I started watching Friends, and I mean, I've watched maybe all of 5 episodes, right? 'Cause it's not really that attractive to me, and it's not something that I just absolutely love. But what is sort of the social style of Friends?
Like amiable.
They're amiable, yeah, for the most part, right? I mean, they're a group of friends, and, you know, and they hang out at the coffee shop, and yeah, I think it's amiable. So if they like Friends, that tells you maybe something about at least one or the other one's social style. You can get it from that. Okay, go on.
Going off of the social styles and which owner, I think, let's just assume Kelly would be the one that lives in Edmond. She would be a driver because she's trying to make efforts to grow. Oh, Kelly's a
Well, that's sort of important.
Kelly, the guy, would be a driver because he's trying to make efforts to grow the business. And
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What else did you come up with?
Um,
What about in terms of vowels?
so for the vowels, yeah, that they're thinkers, because they enjoy a historical perspective by using manual espresso machines, showing how coffee used to be made. They're believers because they want a friendly community. They even have a community tab on the website. And then lastly, they're experiencers because they stand out. They use old-fashioned ways to create coffee right in front of your eyes.
One of the biggest emphasis in their Oklahoma interview was that they will always remember their first ever like purchase at their store. It was like this woman and her kid. They spent about like $10, and one of the owner, Kelly, referred to a Matt and said like, "We can do this. We're rich." Like they were so excited that $10 may have like had a monetary value of like $10, but the fact that it was their first $10 and it was with this community-driven kind of like area that it meant so much more for them, and that's why they're like firm believers in terms of the vowels system.
All right, very good. Yeah, I think you need to focus in on each one and maybe drill down as to why and looking at their social media and you can figure out. I would be willing to bet that one of them in an entrepreneurial business like that, I'd be willing to bet that one is sort of the creative type that comes up with, you know, the ideas. And there are, you know, you're coming up with, I've noticed that this is one of the things, there's a competition among coffee houses and baristas and stuff like that to come up with new, just like craft cocktails have become a very big thing. That started about 10 years ago when I was in California over the Christmas break. I noticed that this whole craft cocktail thing was really, really popular there. And now all of a sudden, it takes about 10 years for things to move, to migrate in from the coast and hit Oklahoma. And so now everybody, all of these various bars across the city are engaged in coming up with, you know, exotic, and their bartenders are no longer bartenders. What do they call them? Anybody know? Mixologists, right? And so I like it. But they come up with all these things, which I'm highly offended by the way. I think that like cocktails should have 2 ingredients, bourbon and branch. That's a cocktail, right? Bourbon and branch. Rum and Coke, which is called, anybody know what that's called? The official name for that? It's a Cuba Libre, right? Okay, that's a cocktail. But they've come up with all these, you know, pomegranate spritzer martini, right? And that's the thing. And now it's infecting the coffee houses as well. It was just sort of that when they started opening up in Oklahoma, when this barista movement became popular, again, it started on the coast, on the West Coast primarily with Starbucks. Now they're coming up with all kinds of different sort of drinks to go in. And even Dunkin' Donuts is now doing this. They're doing like a mocha chai mint iced latte, which just sounds like completely god awful to me. But that's a big thing. So I would be willing to bet that in this business, there's one of them that's like that, who's going to be the one that's going to be more of the creative, innovative, and then there's going to be one that's more about like, we can't afford to buy, you know, the extraordinarily expensive, brand new coffee roasting machine or whatever. So I would look for that. Also use LinkedIn to see if you can figure out some of the stuff from their LinkedIn profiles. All right? Okay, good job. Okay, so the back table. How did you guys choose your prospect?
Huh?
How did you choose them? What made you?
Some of us had been there and we really liked that place.
Okay. So you've been a customer of, okay. Have you met the owners? No,
I think, Brooks has, I think he knows.
okay, all right.
Oh,
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so we chose, this ice cream shop, for Paycom, and.
What's the ice cream shop thing?
Cities.
What is it?
Cities.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They also have capitals as well.
Yeah, cities. So, their second location in a chain of two, okay, so, wait, what? Okay, well, they have two stores. They opened in November of the past year, and then Capitals is the original shop, that opened in February 18th of 2018.
Let me turn that on.
Oh, cities has a second location, sorry.
So they have two different brand names.
So, yeah, so they
Yeah,
have,
so it's cities and Capitals.
So Capitals was first.
Yeah.
And that's in downtown in KC, and then they opened in Edmond at the railroad, as cities.
Okay.
And then the Mavin, so Money Cities might be interested. They're serious in consideration of Paycom services. The owners are young and innovative and might want more streamlined, time-conservative way of managing their human resources department.
Okay. How did you find out that they're young?
We looked them up on Instagram.
Okay, so you actually looked at their social media site.
Yes.
So who are the owners?
well, one of them's an investor, so like he's the one like finances, the,
Okay.
the startup. And then the other one is, Landon Ferguson. He's like the one, he's kind of the face, he's like really young, he's like late 20s.
All right, who's the first one?
The first one,
You said there are two owners. What?
he doesn't do anything with the business, we couldn't find anything on him.
How did you find out that they had an investor then?
Because was it on Facebook? It was somewhere on their social media. It said like the main guy is Landon Ferguson. He's the guy who like oversees everything else. The other guy is just like an investor. Like
He's one of those on their like social media and stuff like that. He's promoting their
Okay.
company.
All right. So, okay, so Money, you thought they're young, innovative. They're obviously growing if they expanded their from one store to two. What else?
So on the approachable part, so like I said, the company is young. It's also, since it's a local company, most local companies like to support other local companies, and Paycom is local here in Oklahoma, and actually I have a lot of friends who work for Paycom, and they said like their biggest market is in Oklahoma, because
Okay.
Oklahoma likes to support Oklahoma.
All right.
And then they're also like, on the approachable part, they're also really big on social media. Like they post stuff regularly on Instagram is probably the biggest one. Facebook is, they still use it, but like Instagram's the big one, and they're marketing to like a younger crowd.
So what do you think it says that they use Instagram more than Facebook?
They have a younger demographic.
I think that's right. Why is that?
It's like the style, everyone's into like posting a picture, and it's very popular to post a picture at capitals or cities of your ice cream because of the way that it looks like it's pretty and cute toppings, and that's just really appealing to the younger crowd.
Why is it that Facebook has become older? I mean, this is one of these things where it's really interesting because Facebook was started out as it was limited to, there was and you all probably don't even remember this, there was a social media site before Facebook that was really, really huge called MySpace. I think they're still around.
Love
Like,
MySpace.
you loved MySpace?
I used to.
Used to love MySpace. MySpace was open to anybody, and it's one of the things that this is one of the predictions that I got totally wrong. I thought MySpace would dominate for a lot longer than it did, because Facebook was limited only, you had to, in order to join Facebook originally, you had to be a student. You had to have an email address that had an edu at the end of it, right? An edu domain. And so you had to be either a college student, or I guess you could have, in theory, been like a high school student or something like that. But at that time, when they started it, it was not really, most high school students didn't have email addresses that were associated with their high school. They do now, right? I mean, they've all got EDU. So it was primarily for college students. And so that was really very sort of, kept the demographic of the organization fairly young. Then Facebook opened it up to everybody because they realized what the power was. And now, why do you think that your generation has sort of I bet you all have a Facebook, but you probably check it less frequently.
I think it's because they like have really long on Facebook, you're posting like paragraphs of words and stuff and so many pictures, whereas Instagram, you can get that information really fast, and that's even more appealing because we don't want to take all that time and like read about people's lives. Like sadly, like you just want to get all the information really fast and be able to scroll pretty fast and not go through paragraphs and paragraphs of like words.
Okay.
Also, Facebook is like what you found to look at stuff that family's doing. Instagram is for friends. So,
Yeah. Like I wouldn't post something, the same thing again.
Why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know, my grandma on Facebook.
That's older people historically will use technology if they're thinkers or things like that. They will use technology in ways that are functional, and so Facebook has become a way for family members to stay connected. And so once your grandma started getting on Facebook or your mother started getting on Facebook, it was less cool, right? So that's why it's become, the demographics have shifted, and there's research to back this up. The demographics on Facebook have shifted. All of you probably have a Facebook account, but you check it probably far less than you do your other social media accounts.
Plus, it's easier to stay exclusive on Instagram. You can have like, it's easier to manage like who sees what and how well you're connected with other people.
Okay. All right. So the first D.
Thoughts gonna be desired.
Okay.
So they would want an easier, more efficient way of navigating their HR department. The co-owner of cities might want to save themselves time so we can focus on other areas of the business, such as like marketing.
Okay, I think that's really important. Yeah, lots of small businesses, Paycom is going to be very attractive to them because it's not just a payroll system anymore. It is a complete human resources suite. And a lot of small businesses, because the owner is doing everything, don't necessarily have time to think about all of the things that you need to be compliant with HR, like the posters that you've got to put up in your workplace, that if you don't have them up are violations of the DOL laws. Figuring out taxes. If you're doing this, in the olden days, what did small businesses have to do? They either had to hire an accountant to do it or they did it themselves. When QuickBooks came along, it became somewhat easier for businesses to do that. But it's still, figuring out the tax tables is really pretty difficult. I mean, it's not an easy thing. And it changes, and it can change in mid-year. When the Trump administration came in and they passed the first tax cut that they got, those changed everything in mid-year in the tax tables and how people were having to calculate. And it was also one of the reasons why a lot of people really felt like they got cheated because they were used to having this is an example of how things get confused. You historically were able to list yourself as a dependent. So when you filled out the tax form, the W-4 form that you give your employer for withholding, you could use yourself as one dependent. And a lot of people did that, and it would withhold at the correct rate, and you might still get a tax refund. Now, technically, you cannot claim yourself as a dependent. You have to file 0. Otherwise, the withholding is not going to be accurate for you, and that changed in mid-year. Right? So and if you get this wrong, you get these kinds of things wrong, you can have a big tax liability, right? In terms of what you're reporting to the government. So I think that's an important point for that. Okay, what else, Jim?
The next part was decision maker. So we do have the point of contact would be the co-owner, Landon Ferguson. So we assume that he's in charge of HR and hiring and all that stuff.
Okay.
And he is young, so he's also willing to expand. So they can also help him.
All right.
Focus on other areas like that to expand.
Okay.
And then eligible, so they are looking to expand their business because they just set up one last year, so. So basically, yeah, it's just a better opportunity because it's helping basically the HR program and everything will take care of everything for them to expand.
All right.
And we, we live in a society where like easy is better.
Okay.
Like they have, you can access it from your phone, from your computer at home. You don't have to like necessarily be in the time to like go in and request your time off or whatever. Settings where you can make it so you can log in when your hours you're connected to a specific Wi-Fi or to be in a specific geographical area before you log in your hours.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's one.
So yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. Historically, again, what did people have to do in order to run payroll? They actually had to be at their office where they were. What does Paycom allow you to do, or ADP? They allow you to do these kinds of things anywhere. Now, what's the danger with that?
It can be hacked.
Yeah. Or if you lose your computer and it's got all the data on it, or it's logged in, right? You could have a security breach in that pretty easily. But I think a lot of young people, particularly if you are going between two businesses now, you've started at one, and maybe it wasn't such a big deal to do payroll, when you have one business, but now you've got two, and isn't it going to be a lot easier if you can do that when you're not necessarily at one or the other?
Have you ever used Paycom?
Yeah, why? We use it for, UCO uses it now.
Oh, wow.
So,
I know we use it for student workers, but from what I understand, you have I think there's 4 different tiers of control over an account, and Paycom retains the highest tier, and that's tier 5.
Mhm.
And the only danger is if, a tier 3 or 4 access person, leaves their stuff, the login information out, or they have it on a piece of paper and you can steal it. But most of the time you have to, there's so many points of access, or so many checkpoints you have to do before you can change up important things. And in Paycom, it's all on the cloud, so you use a computer, you can just log in from another computer.
yeah, absolutely. You don't have to be at one location, and that's great. But with regard to data breaches, it's not a matter of if it happens, it's what? When it happens. And anything that's in the cloud is susceptible to that. I mean, and what happens, that's where if you have somebody that's a traditionalist, you're gonna have to overcome those kinds of objections, like, how many things have been hacked recently that, made the news, and there's been huge data breaches. But okay, so what about their social style? What about the social styles?
We said they were innovators, a bit of experiencers. The innovators because they're willing to experiment, because every holiday stuff, they try new flavors and mix flavors that people recommend and stuff like that, so they mix that. And then experiencers, they're more popular with the younger crowd, or everyone wants to try new things. So I guess the railroad place is a good location because they're starting new shops, so everyone's trying to, it's like the hit place to go, so.
Okay. So that's the vowels type. What about the social style? Social style is driver, amiable, expressive, right?
Definitely more of an expressive.
You think they're
and
expressive?
amiable,
You think it's
yes.
expressive? Why do you think that?
They're artistic and willing to get out there and be different and be innovative. And it's definitely going to a different market than a lot of other, like Marble Stone or
Marble slab.
yeah, Marble Slab or Cold Stone. Those two appeal to a general demographic, but this one's specifically way more towards the social media side. It's a cool place to go and take pictures and be with your friends and say, yeah, I'm here, look at me.
What distinguishes them and their ice cream from Marble slab or Cold Stone?
It's a place to go instead of just ice cream. It's also a lot more customizable. So you can go and say, yeah, I made up this flavor and they gave it to me.
Don't you think Cold Stone is pretty much, it allows you to totally, or Marble slab?
They're not as pretty though.
Not near as pretty.
It doesn't have a certain shape that it goes around. It's more like a frozen yogurt type of look, but then the top.
I feel like cities just being there, it's already cool.
It's a decorative aspect of it. Whereas Cold Stone, you can chop it up and you can put it in it and stuff like that. This one's more of a design on top kind of thing in the presentation of it.
Also, the actual store is much different, Marble Slab and Cold Stone. You want to combine them.
those are places you go for the ice cream, not necessarily for the experience. So like you could put a marble slab in an old McDonald's store, and ice cream tastes great. It's just the location. Like, okay, this is kind of cool, I guess.
Well, okay, so if you think back, sort of what are the big brands in terms of ice cream? One of the things that just fascinates, I'm not a big ice cream person, so I guess maybe I don't really know.
Is it too late to drop this class?
Why?
I just disagree with you on that statement so much. I don't think I can take this anymore.
You like ice cream?
I don't like ice
If I
cream.
went like lactose intolerant,
Yeah, I'm lactose intolerant.
life would there's a lot of meaning.
So,
I have never liked sweets, so it's just not, I mean, if it's like a choice, if there's a choice between steak and ice cream, I would choose steak every day. I mean, like, 3 times. I mean, I love.
Ice cream makes your steak.
No.
No.
Steak makes steak better. Okay, so I'm probably not like the best person to think about this, but I if you think about historically, when I was a kid growing up, the big brand name in ice cream was Baskin Robbins 31. And what was their big marketing? Well, it's 31 flavors, which by the way, I've gone into Baskin Robbins because they're now combining them in lots of instances with Dunkin' Donuts. And I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I mean, I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee, particularly Dunkin' Donuts cold brew. I am like addicted to cold brew. I mean, I just love it. Black. It's another thing that I like. Coffee should be drunk black. Shouldn't have all this other crap in it. It should be black. And I love their cold brew. But so I went in and I was actually counting flavors at the Baskin Robbins on 23rd Street. They don't actually have 31. That was their marketing thing, was that they had 31 flavors of ice cream. They don't come close to having 31 flavors of ice cream in the case. And that used to be the big deal. And then, the other one that was popular in Oklahoma when we moved here was Brahms. Right, so there's Brahms ice cream and there was Baskin Robbins. Marble Slab came along, and the first time I ate at Marble Slab was actually in Dallas. That was the first one. It was in the Galleria in Dallas, and it was a very innovative thing, right? So what does Marble Slab do? They put the ice cream on a cold, chilled marble slab. They put stuff in it, and they chop it all up, and it was like, that was very innovative and new at the time. Now, Cold Stone and Marble Slab have sort of become, like old hat. They're not as big a deal as they used to be. So now you've got this new, innovative ice cream retailer who's doing, it's more about like the design and the aesthetic and things like that of the marble slab. So I think that's right. But you can see a progression as you think about these things in terms of what used to be maybe considered like was very expressive, because Marble Slab allowed you to have a lot of creativity compared to Baskin Robbins, which was what? If you didn't like the 31 flavors, it wasn't really customizable beyond you could either get it in a cone or a cup. Okay? So I think that you can like look at sort of the transition in these things and think about that. I think that's one of the things that's sort of interesting to think about. So I would agree with you. I think probably that maybe your guess about the social style is accurate. If you had to find out who the other owner is and he said, look, I really, I'm just all about creating the pretty ice cream, you're going to have to talk to my partner. What are you going to suppose that person's social style is?
Oh, a lot more conservative, not as out there, just all about money.
Probably more analytical. Yeah, I would guess. Okay, very good. Great point.
Alright, so we chose All About Cha, and we're mostly talking about Chow Mi, which is the franchise owner.
Okay.
And so All About Cha has 6 locations.
Okay, what do they do?
They are a coffee shop,
Okay.
like Korean-based coffee shop.
Okay.
So they're a little bit different compared to coffee shops over here.
Okay.
They're mixing Panera Bread and Starbucks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll talk about They opened in 2010, and yeah, and I said they have 6 locations, 2 in Edmond, 1 in OKC, 1 in Moore, and 1 in Tulsa.
Okay.
And then they're planning to open one in Texas.
Okay.
Mhm.
So they are expanding.
Yes, they are expanding.
What does that tell you about them?
They're growing, they're reinvesting all their money. They're
What is it,
expanding.
what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner?
Entrepreneur starts, is the part of the start process.
Okay? I think that's partly right, yeah. Entrepreneurs also generally want to expand. That's sort of the hallmark or the touchstone of an entrepreneur. Like lots of business owners don't necessarily want to expand beyond what they are. I can give you an example of this. There was a guy in Guthrie who decided, this was back in 1986, he started a donut shop when I first moved to Guthrie. And he decided he wanted to make, at that time, 1986, $30,000 a year in a little town was a pretty good income. He decided he wanted to make $30,000 a year, so he figured out how many donuts he had to sell every day to make $30,000 a year. And the donut shop opened at 5:30 and it closed when the last donut sold, right, for the day. And he basically figured that out. But he had no desire, and he was like, that was it. He wasn't an entrepreneur. He was just a business owner. So he didn't have this idea of expanding. Why is that important, do you think? That there's obviously some entrepreneurial tendencies there.
Because if they're not, the brains will eventually die and not be as relevant.
Is that necessarily true? Think about, like in Guthrie, there are like 2 electricians, like 2, neither of them really want to grow or expand. They've got all the work they can handle. Are they really dying? I mean, they both of those families that are electricians in Guthrie have been there for 70 years. And they pretty much got a lock on together because they went to Guthrie High School. I mean, well, their fathers or grandfathers who started it went to Guthrie High School. There's actually one new one that's coming to Guthrie, but pretty much there's not. I'm not sure they're going to die anytime soon.
Maybe not really in a service-based business like that, but in a coffee, cafe place where there's a lot more competition.
Okay, all right. What does that tell you about social styles then?
More of a driver.
Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead. I interrupted you. Keep going.
So we found out a lot about his personality through interviews and also his LinkedIn.
Okay.
So we can go through that and start.
What interviews did you find?
So there's one from Tulsa World. He had a phone interview with them.
Mhm.
And then there was one with the Oklahoma Gazette when he opened,
Okay.
or when he was talking about like seniority and their health and like their wellness and how he's
Okay.
like very respectful to his elders and stuff like that because he grew up in South Korea.
Okay.
In regards to that, with the money, he's obviously reinvesting in all the stores. All their sales floors are really big compared to their back of house stuff. And he has like really good furniture. And seems like he would definitely have the money to pay for Paycon.
Okay.
And he also seems very approachable. He seems very nice, very humble.
We also have a picture of this for you to see him.
Yeah, this is him.
If you can
All
see
right.
it,
Yeah,
he's
he has a
very,
nice warm
yeah,
face.
he looks like he's in like his early 30s or late 30s or like early 40s.
But I think I would approach him. He has a number and email on his website, and just go into all this management and try to get in contact.
Okay.
Desire kind of fits the mold for Paycom employees. It's a retail business with lots of hourly employees. I think he would like to outsource that.
Okay.
And he is the decision maker of the organization. He's the founder of all of it. He's definitely eligible, and he has a need for it.
How are you sure that he's a decision maker?
We're not 100% sure. Maybe he has a general manager now that has 6 locations, but he would definitely be involved in the decision.
Okay, I think that's a safe assumption. But if you got a bigger company, that may not be the safe assumption, right? That somebody like that would be. Okay. What about social styles and valves?
So with the social styles, I'd say at the beginning, like it was more of a dragger since it was like started off small, now it's expanded more. And since it's expanded more, I'd say it's more amiable, more personable with everybody.
Do you think that people actually switch that much in their social style?
Probably not.
I mean, most people tend to be comfortable in one thing. I guess you could grow. I can tell you, I've been a driver my whole life, right? I'm not, terribly interested in switching social styles. So I think driver, generally, small business owners have a tendency to be somewhat, drivers if they're going to be successful, particularly if they're entrepreneurial, because they're trying to grow their business. You have to have some organization. You have to, know what you're doing. Okay, so what about in terms of valves?
And I thought he was an innovator because he was trying to combine like Panera and Starbucks together and kind of make this coffee shop. And we also think like the stuff that he makes, like the drinks that they have and stuff like that is kind of different from other coffee shops because it's like more Korean based and like it's more derived from Korea. So like he's kind of trying to introduce like new drinks to like the American audience.
Okay, so where did you get this idea that he was trying to combine Panera and Starbucks?
He actually said it in his Oklahoma Gazette interview.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's where I got it
okay, so that's interesting to just sort of put your business models out there for everybody to see. This is what I'm trying to do: combine Panera and Starbucks. So I take it that by that what he means is that Starbucks really doesn't have. They have a very limited food menu, and right. I mean, Starbucks is they have a lot of different sorts of coffee drinks, but they have a very limited food menu. Panera has a very limited sort of drink menu, but they have a lot of food. So I take it that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to have like a more broad food menu and combine that with a barista type thing.
Yes, because he does like offer crepes and like he also has like Korean dishes that's kind of like Asian fusion and like Americanized a little bit of like bibimbap, I think. And then they have sushis, they have like macarons that they offer over there.
Also cheesecake.
Yeah, they have a lot of like cakes and stuff.
So they have sushi and cheesecake.
It's very diverse.
Those would seem to be diametrically sort of opposed food groups there, but okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, I think you guys did a very good job. Good work. So make sure you get that submitted. If I gave you some suggestions on where to refine it, be sure to do that. One of the things that, one of the reasons I have you choose like local businesses, smaller businesses, is because as we look at, if I can get the computer phone back up. If we look at, prospecting is defined as the search for and qualification of potential customers. So in that, there are various categories that we can come up with. A lead is the name of any person who may be a potential customer. That's not terribly useful, right? That's just open the phone book and anybody, depending on what kind of company you have, may be a lead. A prospect is somebody who actually wants your product. And then a qualified prospect is one who can want the product and afford it and is the decision maker. And so that's what this exercise is designed to try and get you to think about. And with regard to smaller businesses, it becomes more difficult. And so that's where I talk about this idea of cultivating. Some leads may not be ready, but can be developed. So for example, if somebody's just started a brand new business and they're the only employees, so I own in Guthrie a snow cone stand. I own this lot, and it was a vacant lot in downtown Guthrie, and this couple came and said they wanted to start a snow cone stand, right? I'm like, okay, you know, they built a little snow cone stand on it. They sold it almost instantly because when they opened it, I thought, wow, I am in the wrong business. You know, you got like 10 cents worth of product and they were charging $2 for a medium or $3 for a large snow cone. And I thought, God, I really need to get into the snow cone business, right? So, but then I started thinking about it. They opened the snow cone, they're there all the time. The reason they sold it is because if you do the thing where I told you about this person in Guthrie who started a donut shop, wanted to make $30,000 a year, figured out how many donuts he had to sell to make $30,000 a year, then divided that over 365 days. Actually, I think he wasn't open on Sundays because lots of things in Guthrie weren't open on Sundays. But that seemed a bad business model to me, by the way, because when do people really want donuts? On church on Sunday. But the reason he didn't is he's a member of the First Southern Baptist Church of Guthrie and had to go to church on Sundays, and people don't generally want donuts after, you know, noon. They want them before they go to church, right, on Sunday. So he was closed on Sunday. So, you know, take out the Sundays, which is you subtract, there are 52 weeks in a year, so you subtract 52. He divided that and figured out how many donuts he had to sell. Well, I did something similar. I started thinking about, like, if you wanted to make $30,000 off of the snow cone stand, how many snow cones you have to sell? I mean, the profit margin is huge, but that's a whole lot of snow cones, and you have to do it. It's unlike donuts, which you can sell year round. When do you sell snow cones? Do you sell snow cones like yesterday when it was rainy, wet, and cold? No. When do you sell snow cones?
Summer.
Yeah, you have like a very short window to sell snow cones. By August, people are tired, so the business starts to take off. So that's a whole lot of snow cones that you have to sell in a very short period of time to make $30,000, right? So if I'm running the snow cone stand, and the reason I tell you about this is, you know, if I'm running the snow cone stand by myself, I'm probably not at that point a prospect or a qualified prospect for Paycom because I'm doing it myself. And I don't really have payroll. It's my own business. So I'm just taking the profits, right? And I don't have what I need is maybe TurboTax so that I can figure out my, you know, tax liability. But as the owner, if I'm doing it all myself, I don't really have that problem, right? But if my snow cone stand, if I made really fantastic snow cones, and one of the things that this snow cone stand did was it was a leap forward in snow cone stands. When I was a kid, snow cone stands, you got snow cones at the state fair. That's where you got them, or at like sporting events and things like that. And they were basically crushed, not shaped. They were crushed ice, and they had some flavor on them. And like the first bite was okay, and then all the flavor would drop to the bottom. What makes the shaved ice so much better in terms of snow cones? The flavor stays because it's like snow. Rather than clumps of ice, it actually stays throughout the product. And so it's just a little bit, you know, let's suppose I come up with a really good, snow cone. And now I'm franchising the snow cone stand, or I've got multiple locations. Now I've become, if you've cultivated it, now I may become, because now I've got employees who are probably hourly, that allows me to be a better prospect for something like PayPal. When we think about Madden, one of the things that I want to talk about, and then I'm almost out of time, is money. This is really difficult to determine on small businesses. And that's why I have you choose or use a small business. Because a lot of times it may appear that people have money, but small businesses are oftentimes very strapped for cash. And if they're expanding, it may seem like they have a lot of money, but you know, if they are spending all of their money on capital investments, anything extra may be very difficult. If you're going to if I had you look at publicly traded companies, then, well, you know that they pretty much have money. And how can you tell that? Well, you look at their SEC filings, and you can tell how much money they have, right? Because those are all competing. I think you all did a good job on going through all of those. So for those of you who came up with a company, be sure and sort of drill down and try and find those decision makers and use that to complete the thing to do the vals and such and such. Again, Thursday is reserved for you to work on your sales project or your sales interview. We'll see you I won't see you next Tuesday because next Tuesday is spring break. So I said that in my last class. Apparently they're thinking like, he's crazy. We got the spring break. So, all right, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I guess not.
Have a good spring break.
I need to work on my project. Is there a thing?
Is the format the same
For what?
as each